Overgiving and overfunctioning in relationships. Now, I'm a firm believer you should give a lot in relationships, but you gotta make sure it's reciprocated and that you're not building resentment. Sometimes for us that we give a lot, resentment's slowly building because we don't feel like the other person's doing enough. And we don't always notice that. Now, if you love my content, I would love for you to like and subscribe to my channel, please. And I'm seeing a lot of stuff about overgiving not being fully selfless, and I sometimes agree with that if you mentally in your mind are expecting certain things out of the other person. But sometimes it can realistically be hard to give a lot to other people and have absolutely no expectations. So I'm mixed on that. I don't agree with the people that are like, "Oh, overgiving is selfish." No, that's going too far. It's definitely not, because those of us who overgive, we usually have the other person's best intentions in mind. And sometimes what we're expecting from the other person is closeness or appreciation or, basic things. But the unfortunate reality is a lot of people, when receiving a ton of stuff from you, they don't always appreciate it. I've noticed this throughout my life. It actually happens more often than it doesn't. I always keep in mind that humans don't value what costs them nothing. That's why there's variations of this quote, like you should pay for things, that way you value it more. And unfortunately, that's how it seems to work for a lot of people. Okay, what are some of the reasons that we sometimes will overgive? For a lot of us, deep down, we fear abandonment. So we feel like we need to be useful, so we're not abandoned. And a lot of us, we grow up in an environment where we believe that love is conditional. And for a lot of us, our biggest fear is to be seen as selfish. And we probably know a ton of selfish people, and we're like, I don't want to be like that. So instead of finding a happy little middle, we overcorrect the other way. So that's something to keep in mind. Are you afraid of being selfish? Because when I talk to people who are also overgivers, they do way too much in relationships, I'm always like, okay, I've had them bring up, I feel selfish when I prioritize myself first. And it's like, you need to, because no one else will. And you're not being selfish. You have to constantly be like, okay, I'm not being selfish by doing this. Just because it feels bad doesn't necessarily mean it is wrong or is bad. I feel like selfishness stems from a place of, is your actions drastically hurting other people? And are you taking from others while you are putting yourself first? Are you leaving your cart out where another car might get hit? You're not putting it back. That I would consider more selfish. Are you taking so much more than you are giving? And for some of us, our identity is tied in overgiving, where it's like we don't know who we are when we're not useful. I've had moments like this where maybe my workload has reduced and I'm sitting there like, what do I do? Who am I? No one needs me right now. What is this? So we have to separate our identity from that. What are some signs you are overgiving? You give more than what's asked. You go way above your job description. And I'm not necessarily thinking you should be like, okay, here's my job description. I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'm never going to do any more. I mean, obviously that's not how you get promotions. That's not how you get good things in life. But within reason, if your mental health is struggling, you're physically falling apart because you're giving so much, that's when you're like, okay, I got to taper this back. Next, you start noticing that other people start to adapt to your overgiving. They do even less. They were already doing a little bit, and now they're doing nothing because they've adapted to your labor. And we sometimes think that, oh, they appreciate what we're doing for us. I mean, what we're doing for them. And they're not. They're just adapting. There's some people, it's hard to wrap your mind around it when you're an overgiver, but there's some people out there who go through life trying to do the minimum they can. And I mean, if you're offering resources, they'll take those resources without a second thought. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm not necessarily putting those people down, but a lot of people will follow the path of least resistance. It's natural, right? But for some of us who are overgivers or overinvestors, it's kind of hard for us to understand because we don't do it like that. Next, when you start noticing the imbalance and you don't feel appreciated, that's kind of your signal to kind of pull back. Because oftentimes we start feeling that And we're like, well, they're not going to do it. So we keep pouring into it, not realizing that maybe that's when we have to have a conversation with that person, start setting limits, boundaries. If it's something that affects you, or if it's something you just let go and let it fall, then that's what you do, which I know for those of us, it's hard. It's hard watching something go down in value because we're not doing it, or maybe the other people, they're not good at it, or they're just doing bare minimum. That can be hard. Like if you're reduced in your responsibilities at work and then you see the new people not doing it as well, it can be really hard to not just step right back in and take over the responsibility. But sometimes we have to let people face the consequences of their actions or inaction. Next, this is where the overgiving gets a little toxic, is when we explode or have an emotional outburst because of the overgiving, and the person sitting there confused because they never agreed to the contract in the first place. We had a silent contract with them. And to be fair, a lot of relationships run on silent contracts. They're just kind of implied. Like, one example is I cook dinner every day for my husband and I. It was never something we sat down and were like, okay, your job is going to be dinner. It's just sort of fell into my lap. It's kind of a silent contract that most days dinner's going to be ready when he gets home. And this is not something that doesn't mean I'm like resentful or anything. I'm cool with it. I'm actually, I like it. And if I had a problem with it, I would talk to him, but it's just sort of this implied thing. That's an example of kind of a silent contract. We didn't explicitly say, okay, Lynn's doing dinner, but it's there. But when you get upset and resentful, that's when it becomes a problem, because the person didn't know that they were signing up for that per se. That's why you need to have kind of uncomfortable conversations sometimes. What does healthy giving look like? Some of us, we haven't experienced a lot of it, so it can be hard. It's reciprocated. It has limits. You have boundaries. You don't always put the other person first. If you have something going on in your life, not doing this today, you go about your way. You know, you miss work sometimes and you don't feel guilty about it. I know that can be hard for some of us, but like, you realize that you have limited capacity and you give within reason and you're not feeling resentful or taken advantage of. You do it because you enjoy it. Overgiving, on the other hand, feels draining and comes with resentment. And I hate this, but overgivers, we attract users and takers. They're drawn to us like popcorn and butter, and it's freaking annoying. We overgive. We don't even we don't have to offer typically. We just sort of step in and start doing stuff, and the taker's like, "Oh, perfect. This is exactly what I wanted." And they don't reciprocate because they didn't have to. And that's the frustrating part about people like that, is they'll gravitate towards you. You'll think everything's good initially. You'll give. They keep taking, and eventually you're drained, or you ask for something in return and they ghost you, or they just say no, and it's kind of like, what? Or to make it even worse, they paint you as selfish or cold or rotten when you stop giving because it's abrupt, and you're just like, and they're just upset because they want to keep taking advantage of you. That's something to look out for. Is sometimes people who take a lot, they'll make you feel guilty for you pulling back or you prioritizing yourself when you were never obligated to give them those things in the first place. That's how users are able to extract so much from so many people, is they use guilt as their tactics shortly afterwards. Or they make you feel like you were obligated to do that in the first place. Sometimes takers will do things to harm you. They won't apologize, and then they act like nothing happened. So you're sitting there feeling like you're crazy or something because you didn't. There's actually a term for that. I try to avoid using clinical terms. But if you're around someone like that, just realize when they paint you as a picture of cold or rotten, you just need to just brush it off and not step back into that overgiving role, because they are using that to their advantage.